Do you ever feel like the career path that you're currently pursuing doesn't feel aligned with who you are as a person? If you do, there's a good chance that the job itself or the career itself is the problem, not you. You may be trying to force your personality into a career that wasn't made for someone with your personality. Welcome back to Find Your Power podcast. I am your host, Avery Jane, and today I want to help you realize who you are. And you may think you already know, maybe you do already know, but I want to help you turn that into the perspective of a career as well. So you may already know exactly who you are and what you want, but does the career path that you're currently following align with your personality? There's a good chance that you're trying to force something instead of figuring out what would actually fit you and your personality rather than you trying to fit into a job or a career. In this way, careers are the same as clothes. You should not be trying to fit into your clothes. If your clothes don't fit you, then you should get new clothes. It's the same with a career or job. You don't need to try to shape your personality into a new job or a new career that honestly wasn't made for someone with your personality. And it's not your fault that you're pursuing this. Society tells us to aim for the career or the job path that has the most stability, the highest salary, or even what you're good at. But sometimes this doesn't actually fit who you are. Now, unfortunately, it's not as easy as, oh, you're an extrovert, you should be a teacher. It's not going to be as simple as that, but it will definitely give you an understanding when you realize your specific traits and your specific personality traits and pieces of you that you were likely born with and will carry on with you for the rest of your life. And of course, these traits might change a little, but for the most part, they do stay pretty consistent throughout your life. And connecting these to specific aspects of different careers that may make you more comfortable than ones that try to dim your personality traits or expect other traits from you that you don't have. So this episode was inspired by this book that I started reading a little bit of called Do What You Are. Now, this one is the first version. It's an older book, but there are newer versions now. I just don't have them. But a lot of the information in this book is still relevant today. And one of those things is the Myers-Briggs. Now, you may have heard of the Myers-Briggs before. What the book says is that it basically consists of 16 distinctly different personality types that remain consistent in life, and these are also based on 4 basic aspects of human personality, or in other words, they could be called dimensions, and each one can be pictured as a continuum between the opposite and extreme. So, of course, it's not you are this way or you are that way. It's more of a scale for each of the 4 dimensions, but they still can give you a really good idea about who you are and what kind of personality traits define you in a way. And you don't have to use this to define you. If you're not happy with the results of it, then you don't really have to think of it again. But I think it can help with a little bit of self-awareness, and not only in a career standpoint, but in a lot of other life situations like relationships or friendships or whatever it may be throughout life. It can maybe help you realize why you do some of the things you do. And that's another reason why I'm touching on it today. Before we dive into these dimensions of the Myers-Briggs, I do want to kind of circle back on why I am doing this episode. I think traditionally when we're told to pick a career or pick something that we want to do when we grow up, maybe, for the most part, it's things that, like I said, will get you a high salary. It's also usually something practical, something that follows the job demand maybe. And these things are important, but they don't look at who you are. Sometimes they look at your strengths or your weaknesses, a grade or even experience standpoint, rather than your actual personality and who you are and what you thrive best in, how you work best. And looking at just your strengths and weaknesses and experiences doesn't always work, because you may have done something for a while, but you didn't like it. You may have tried something out and you hated it. Or you may be really good at something, but it's really not your favorite thing to do. Or maybe you'd honestly just rather keep it as a hobby and not a job. So, doing things that don't actually align with your personality can honestly end up leading to burnout, or just not being happy or satisfied in your career. Another thing to consider is that there are a lot of career counseling or even those career tests you can take. And I did have an episode on kind of an updated version of that career quiz. And I may go back to doing that again in a future episode. But this one is more letting you do it on your own and kind of letting you analyze your personality. And once we come to that conclusion, you can also find your maybe strengths or weaknesses in a career. There are a lot of, career counseling or career quizzes out there, but the main problem with those a lot of the times is that they look at the big three, and this is talked about in the book as well. These are your abilities, your interests, and your values. And of course, those are also very important when you're looking at future career. But the only thing with those that's different from Myers-Briggs that can make it worse is the fact that they change. They change with your age. So when we look at the Myers-Briggs and the 4 different dimensions there, most of those stay pretty consistent. Throughout your life. Of course, if you take this Myers-Briggs test, I think I took it when I was a kid for fun with my family. And I'm pretty sure I did have one letter that is different now, or one dimension, as you may call it. But also, for the most part, it stays the same. I think throughout your adult years, they're going to stay relatively the same. And for the big three, the things that are looked at now, those really tend to change. I think your abilities, your interests, and your values can change every few years even, no matter whether you're a kid or an adult. So the reason that there's 16 distinctly different personality types is because the 4 dimensions can all be rearranged. There's 16 different combinations of these 4 dimensions. So to briefly start and go through each of these, if you haven't heard of them, the first one is either extroversion or introversion. And this is E or I. Each of the 4 dimensions are a scale, like I said. So on one end of the scale is the E, and on the other end of the scale is the I. Extroversion or introversion. And this first one describes how we interact with the world and where we direct our energy. The second dimension is from sensing to intuition, and this is S to N. This one shows you the kind of information that we naturally notice. The third one is on the scale from thinking to feeling, so T to F, and this is how we make decisions. And the last one is judging to perceiving, J to P. And this is whether we prefer to live in a more structured way, like making decisions, or in a more spontaneous way, like taking in info. Now, I did also want to go through each of these, and this can kind of help you to understand which one of these aligns best with you. So first, I'm going to go back to the first dimension, the extroverts to introverts. If you guys like to journal, maybe you can grab your journal to go ahead and jot some of these down, whichever ones align with you. Or if you don't journal, you can just grab your phone, anything in the Notes app, whatever you want to do. Or just listen, that works too. But I do encourage you to kind of notice which of these align with you, because this can help you kind of judge where you are personally on the scale of each dimension, which can then later on, like I said, help you determine your strengths and weaknesses in certain career paths and what you may look for in certain careers. So we're going to go full circle with this. I'm going to start with the first dimension. So the extroverts to introverts. Extroverts, if you are more aligned with this side of the scale, these are people who are energized by being with other people. They like being the center of attention. They act and then they think. They tend to think out loud. They are easier to read and know, and they share personal information freely. They talk more than they listen. They communicate with enthusiasm. They respond quickly and they enjoy a fast pace. When it comes to the introvert side of the scale, these are people that are more energized by spending time alone. They avoid being the center of attention. They think and then they act, think things through inside their heads. They are more private. They prefer to share personal information with a select few. They listen more than they talk. They keep their enthusiasm to themselves. And they respond after taking the time to think things through. So depending on those, you can kind of judge where you think you might be on the scale from E to I. If you were to draw a line, like a scale, with those ones, on E on one side, I on the other, and a line down the middle, whichever side you're more on is going to be your letter. The next one is the sensors to intuitives. So for this scale, the sensors trust what is certain and concrete. They like new ideas only if they have practical applications. They value realism and common sense. They like to use and hone established skills. They tend to be specific and literal and give detailed descriptions. They present information in a step-by-step manner. And they are oriented to the present. On the intuitive side, they trust inspiration and inference. They like new ideas and concepts for their own sake. They value imagination and innovation. They like to learn new skills, but they get bored easily after mastering skills. They tend to be general and figurative, and they use metaphors and analogies. They present information through leaps in a roundabout manner, and they are oriented towards the future. The third dimension is the thinkers and feelers. On the thinkers side, they step back and apply impersonal analysis to problems. They value logic, justice, and fairness, one standard for all. They naturally see flaws and tend to be critical. They may be seen as heartless, insensitive, and uncaring. They consider it more important to be truthful than tactful. They believe feelings are valid only if they are logical, and they are motivated by a desire for achievement and accomplishment. On the feeler side, they step forward, consider effect of actions on others. They value empathy and harmony and see the exception to the rule. They naturally like to please others and show appreciation easily. They may be seen as over-emotional, illogical, and weak. They consider it important to be tactful as well as truthful. They believe any feeling is valid, whether it makes sense or not, and they are motivated by a desire to be appreciated. When you're going through these, I do want you to try to be really honest with yourself. I know some of these may sound negative, but the truth is that none of us have all perfect qualities to us, unfortunately. So I do want you to be honest with yourself, even if you think that it doesn't sound great. If you feel that it kind of resonates more with you, then I encourage you to go with it anyways. And the last dimension is going to be the judgers and the perceivers. For the judgers, they're happiest after decisions have been made. They work first, play later, if there's time. They set goals and work towards achieving them on time. They prefer knowing what they're getting into. They are product oriented. The emphasis is on completing the task. They derive satisfaction from finishing projects, and they see time as a finite resource and take deadlines seriously. On the perceiver side, they are happiest leaving their options open. They have a play ethic, enjoy now, finish the job later if there's time. Change goals as new information becomes available. They like adapting to new situations. They are process oriented, so the emphasis is on how the task is completed. They derive satisfaction from starting projects, and they see time as renewable resource, and they see deadlines as elastic. So depending on what side of the scale that you landed most on for each of those letters determines what your letters are. After you establish which one of these 16 combinations that you are, then you can establish which one of 4 you are when it comes to career strengths. So if you're looking at your letters and your second and fourth letters are SJ, then you're going to be in the SJ category when it comes to career. If your second and fourth letters are S and P, then that is your category. If your middle 2 letters are NF, then your category is NF. And if your middle 2 letters are NT, then your category is going to be NT. And this is in regards to work strengths and work abilities. So starting with the first one, if you found your second and fourth letters were SJ, you are sensing judgers. You need to belong, to serve, and to do the right thing. Value stability, orderliness, cooperation, and reliability. You also tend to be hardworking and serious. So these are some qualities that you may look for at work. If you are in the SP category, you are a sensing perceiver. At work, the sensing perceivers need to be active and free to act on impulses. They focus on what can be accomplished in the here and now. They value heroic deeds and masterful acts, and they like moving from one challenge to the next. So that's something that you will look for in a workplace or a career. If you are in the NF category, so your middle 2 letters were NF, you are an intuitive feeler. You enjoy using your ability to understand and connect with other people. You naturally are empathetic and focus on the needs of people involved in work, like employees, colleagues, patients, or clients. So if you are an intuitive feeler, an NF, you may want to work with people or any more client-facing role. And lastly, if you are in the category of an NT, so your middle 2 letters were N and T, you are an intuitive thinker. For the intuitive thinkers at work, you enjoy using your abilities to see possibilities and analyze them logically to solve problems. You're interested in constantly acquiring knowledge, either for its own sake or for a strategic purpose. So I hope now that maybe helped you know a little bit more about who you are and your personality, and maybe some strengths and things to look for in a future career as well, or in your job path as well. Some reasons on why these are also very important is because people are more satisfied when their work aligns with their energy levels, their communication style, and their environment preference. I mean, think about it. If you're an introvert that's in a constantly social job, there's a good chance you're going to feel very drained every single day when you're done with it. And if you're a very creative person, but you're in a very rigid, structured job where all you do is factual things and you don't have room to be creative, you're likely going to feel frustrated or trapped. Or maybe you're a very structured person and you do like structure, and schedule. If you're in a chaotic job, you're likely going to feel very overwhelmed and stressed. So it's important not to try to fit into careers that don't match you or who you are. And you don't need to change yourself if you feel like you're in the wrong career. It's likely the environment that's the problem, it's not you. A few more questions that you can ask yourself when determining a career path that might align better with you. And these ones are a little bit more specific as well. Maybe ask yourself if you like working independently or with people. If you prefer structure or you prefer flexibility. Maybe you like routine or maybe you like spontaneity and variety. Or do you like leading or supporting? I also want to stress, as we start wrapping up the episode, that I want you to use these letters as a tool to help you and not as a number one label of your identity. You don't need to feel boxed in by any of these letters. You can change. Like I said, they don't change so much, but of course it's a scale. So if you make the effort to change, you can. If you want to, you can. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to. If you feel like you need to for a certain job or a certain career path, I'm here to tell you that you don't. There's a career path out there that completely aligns with the letters that you already have, that you already align with, and the scale that you fit on perfectly. And it's best to find a career or a job that fits and aligns with you, not the other way around. But as we end off this episode, I just want to remind you guys, like I do quite often, you don't need to have your entire life planned out for you right now. You actually shouldn't. And honestly, just understanding yourself and who you are can be a very valuable thing when it comes to learning about what you want in your future. And it doesn't have to be all sketched. It doesn't have to be all written down for you right now. And you do not have to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. But having the awareness of who you are and what you like and what you don't like and what you're good at on a personal level because of your personality, these are important things to know as you go about in life, no matter for your career or not. Because honestly, at the end of the day, it's great to have a good career that fulfills you in all types of ways, but the goal shouldn't be to just have a job. The goal should be to have the life that you want and one that actually feels like yours. That does conclude today's episode. I know it was a shorter one, but since last week's was pretty long, I figured that it was okay. Today's was a little bit shorter. Tune in every Thursday to listen or watch on YouTube or Spotify, or for audio only, I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Audible. Make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple. Rate the podcast 5 stars if you enjoyed it. Leave any comments or reviews. Also, subscribe to the YouTube if you do listen on there as well. You can also find my Instagram or my TikTok at findyourpower_podcast. And please share the episode or the whole channel with anybody that you think could benefit from it. It really helps the podcast grow. And lastly, if you'd like to be featured for an interview or a conversation on the podcast, please send me an email at the email linked in the description. I will talk to you guys again soon next Thursday. And don't forget, we will find your power.